A four-state medical supply company has concerns about more and more of their patients needing oxygen during the pandemic. You'll learn what they're doing to make sure everyone can breathe coming up.
One day after President Biden declared the end of America's longest war a success, Pentagon and State Department officials weigh in. I'm Lauren Blanchard in Washington with the latest coming up.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abby. Hospitals in parts of the southern U.S. are running low on oxygen as the coronavirus pandemic continues. But what about the four-state area? KOAM's Mike Mahoney spoke to some local hospitals, also a four-state medical supply company, to find out more.
As the coronavirus rages on and the Delta variant continues to put people in the hospital, many southern hospitals in states like Florida, Texas, South Carolina, and Louisiana are running low on oxygen. Joplin's Mercy Hospital says that while their oxygen use has roughly tripled in the last 6 to 8 weeks, Mercy and its suppliers can handle the increase.
We've seen a significant climb in the amount of oxygen usage, but as far as deliveries and shortages and any notifications from the suppliers who are monitoring us regularly, we don't see any concerns.
Hospitals like Mercy may be able to handle the increased oxygen demand, but smaller operations like Kansas Medical Supply in Columbus, Kansas are feeling the pinch. They provide at-home and portable use oxygen tanks, and manager Crystal Blake says they've had to cut back on the number of tanks they can provide to customers.
We do the home fill, where they fill the tanks themselves at home, and whereas we would originally take like 4 or 5 tanks for them to fill, we're now taking like 3.
Crystal says the demand for oxygen tanks wasn't always this high, but the Delta variant has forced Kansas Medical Supply to both ration and order more tanks.
Now we are having more cases in this area to where, when it first came out, when COVID was first out, we didn't have a whole lot of requests for oxygen. There was some, but we have more requests for oxygen now with the variant and increased cases in our area.
Mercy says the majority of their COVID patients dealing with severe illness are unvaccinated, and they recommend getting the shot so you don't find yourself gasping for air. In Columbus, Kansas, Mike Mahoney, KOAM News.
A representative of the Allen County Regional Hospital in Iola, Kansas, says they're also not running low on oxygen, but are monitoring the shortage situation in other states so they can stay prepared. Freeman Hospital today hosted a COVID-19 briefing. At that briefing, Freeman officials talked about the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy offered at the hospital. The therapy is meant to keep high-risk COVID-19 patients out of hospital beds.
Test positive, those are the ones that we can get into our infusion center and basically get that on board. And we try to do that anywhere from the first day up into 10 days after they've tested positive.
Freeman says they've seen an increase in COVID-19 patients of all ages that have a higher need for care. COVID-19 outbreaks in select school districts adding more fuel to the debate over mask mandates. This as the CDC issues a warning for unvaccinated Americans ahead of Labor Day weekend. Fox News correspondent Phil Keating has more.
The new school year just getting underway, and already there are challenges. A Central Texas school district closed all of its schools until after Labor Day after 2 teachers died of COVID-19. While in Illinois, more than 24 schools in the state are reporting outbreaks among students and staff. Doctors say they expect infections to surge as the Delta variant spreads.
Every time you have large groups of children, they're going to transmit things back and forth.
The outbreaks further fueling the nationwide debate over face coverings in the classroom. On Tuesday, parents in Daytona Beach, Florida protested ahead of a school board meeting to consider a universal mask mandate. The board voting to mandate the masks with nearly 10 times more COVID positive children now compared to the same time last year.
When a parent chooses no mask for their kid, it places my kids at risk.
Meanwhile, a 4th wave of COVID cases continues to intensify. Alabama, Georgia, Texas, Florida, and Arkansas have less than 10% of their ICU bed capacity left. And with the Labor Day weekend approaching, the CDC is urging those unvaccinated don't travel.
Given where we are with disease transmission right now, we would say that people need to take these risks into their own consideration as they think about traveling.
And the CDC also recommending that Labor Day gatherings be outdoors and with everybody vaccinated. In Atlanta, Phil Keating, Fox News.
Chris Warner joining us now. First look at the forecast. Humidity still there. Heat not as bearable, it feels. Chris?
It hasn't been as bad as what we've seen the last several days, and that's why we thankfully don't have any heat advisories in the area, which is a nice welcome sight. As per the almanac today, it's on this side. I knew that. We reached high of 88, low of 69, almost on par for what we should be seeing this time of year, and thankfully nowhere near any of the records. Skywatch Storm Tracker, nothing on our area. We've been talking about the Northeast all day where they're still dealing with the remnants of Ida. They've had several tornado warnings up there. These are the severe weather reports all the way from Maryland up into New York. And then as you can see, they're dealing with a serious flooding situation. Thankfully, nothing like that for us to deal with. In fact, we're going to be dealing with fairly bearable temperatures across the area. As we go through the day tomorrow, we're going to start about 70 degrees at 7 a.m., 79 by 10, 88 some isolated showers and thunderstorms. You can see some of those by noon. Hitting a high of 93. We'll have the complete forecast here in just a few minutes.
Chris, thank you. Crowder College in Neosho, Missouri is looking for a new president. As part of that process, the school is looking for input from the public. Today, the school hosted a public forum to lay the groundwork for what they're calling a presidential profile, which is going to be used in the recruitment and evaluation of candidates.
I can feel there's a good feeling here on campus. It's a great culture, a great institution, and I think will be very attractive for some highly qualified presidential applicants.
The college's current president, Glenn Colfarp, is going to retire at the end of the school year. Pressure continues to mount in Washington for the Biden administration to address growing concerns and questions over the president's decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Today, the Pentagon and State Department weighed in. Fox News correspondent Lauren Blanchard is in D.C. with the latest.
It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome President Zelensky.
President Biden shifting his foreign policy focus to the Baltics Wednesday, meeting with the president of Ukraine in the Oval Office.
And the United States remains firmly committed to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
But Afghanistan remains foremost on the minds of most in Washington as calls to investigate the president's decision to withdraw grow louder on Capitol Hill.
For the president to go on TV last night and to call this an extraordinary success was shameful.
In Kabul Wednesday, economic turmoil as Afghans under a new central bank directive struggle to withdraw cash amid warnings of a food crisis. At the Pentagon, U.S. officials saying their evacuation effort was historic, despite concerns with how it all played out.
As we always do, this department will look back clearly and professionally and learn every lesson that we can. That's our way.
And as to whether the U.S. would work with the Taliban moving forward,
this is a ruthless group from the past, and whether or not they change remains to be seen.
At the State Department, questions continue over diplomatic efforts to get remaining Americans out.
We are looking at all possible options, air routes, land routes, to continue to find ways for them to help evacuate and to support them.
As for those Afghans who fought alongside our troops, the State Department has yet to release any numbers on how many got out or how many still remain. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. Ed Hatfield served in the U.S. Navy from 1951 to 55. Native of Knoll, Missouri, Hatfield was in Japan, also the Philippines. We are proud to thank third-class Petty Officer Ed Hatfield. He's tonight's four-state hero. Chris is next with a complete look at the forecast a bit later. Pitt State quarterback Mac Sexton aims for a big year for the Gorillas. Going to hear from the sophomore and his head coach in sports.
Today was much better compared to what we have seen over the last several days in terms of unbearable heat. Checking out this time lapse from Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, showing beautiful weather across the four states. And this time that camera's not lying as much as it has been because the temperatures were relatively beautiful as well. Started out 69 Tuesday, made it up to 88. Then we started out the day about 70 this morning, made it up again to 88 today. Not nearly as hot as it has been for the last several days, thankfully. 7th and Range line looks pretty good right now. Temperatures looking pretty decent right now, too. 77's where it sits. East-northeast wind at 7. Feels like 79. It's a heat index of only 2 degrees. Dew point coming down too. It's 68. Temperatures across the area starting to fall back kind of nicely as well. And this has been the trend all day. It is 8 degrees cooler to the northeast than it is to our farthest southwest point. So we're talking 82 Nowata and Veneta, 74 Stockton, 77 Pittsburgh, 75 Fort Scott, 73 in Iola. There's still a dew point out there, and it's still somewhat up there, as you can see. A lot of us in the low 60s or upper 60s rather, to low 70s when you take that into account. We're still in that sticky to muggy range, and that's going to stick around for a little bit because we have some changes coming around. But the thing is now the temperatures aren't doing so bad, and those dew points are lower than where they have been. Heat index values not looking as bad, though again, off to the southwest, it is still a bit warmer. So as we go through the day tomorrow, you see the cloud cover. There may be a storm or two once we get into the late morning, early afternoon. Taking a look at how that's going to play out. Starting the day at 70, warming up to about 93 by 4, and around the 10 to noon hour, we may see an isolated storm or two across the area, but nothing too widespread. Skywatch Storm Tracker, nothing in our area. Off to the northeast, they're dealing with flooding and severe weather with the remnants of Hurricane Ida. Here locally, let's take a look at what those changes are going to look like as the forecast plays out. So this is going into tomorrow morning. This is 9:30. You can see some of those scattered showers and thunderstorms across the area. They clear out by the afternoon, but they leave behind some cloud cover, so temperatures not rising as high as what they have been. And then check out this line back behind me off to our northwest. You can see starting to form. This is Friday morning, and we may see some thunderstorms in the northwestern counties. Those will try and move into southwest Missouri. Most of them will break up as we go through the day. As we head into Saturday, now this activity should stay to our north, but Saturday morning, starting the day off with showers and thunderstorms and more coming up behind them out of the west in Wichita. Thankfully, the future feels likes are looking pretty darn good as well, nowhere near where they have been, because take a look at this 7-day forecast. 86 for Saturday, 80 for Sunday. The unfortunate thing is, even though it's the holiday weekend, in order to get those lower temperatures, we got to trade off something. So we do have some increasing shower thunderstorm chances, but much better temperatures before next week starts to heat up again.
There's always a trade-off when it comes to weather, isn't there?
You got to have one thing or the other, but you can't always have both.
Yeah. Can't have your cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
Chris Warren, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks so much, man. Coming up, the death toll from Storm Ida continues to rise.
The people of New Orleans and the entire Gulf Coast are still hurting today, days after Hurricane Ida slammed ashore. I'm Caroline Shively in New Orleans. I'll have details coming up.
I say a student who was shot at a high school this afternoon has passed away. The Forsyth County Sheriff's Office says no one else was hurt and the suspect is in custody. It's believed he's also a student at the school. This fatal shooting is the second school shooting in North Carolina this week. Protesters gathered in Texas after the U.S. Supreme Court failed to block the state's controversial abortion law from taking effect at midnight. The measure bans abortions as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy, which is before many women even know they're pregnant. The bill also allows citizens to sue anyone who assists a woman in getting an abortion after 6 weeks. Those who are successful with their lawsuits could be awarded a minimum of $10,000. The Supreme Court could still weigh in on the Texas law. The death toll from Ida rises to at least 6 as the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic preps for effects from the storm. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively is in New Orleans with the latest.
New Orleans residents in need are now finding a place to charge a phone, get a hot meal, and even sit on one of the air-conditioned buses that are being used as cooling stations. It's temporary relief on the long road to recovery after Hurricane Ida. Hundreds of thousands of customers in Louisiana are still without electricity after Ida tore through the state. Downed trees and power lines remain across roadways, creating further challenges for utility companies looking to restore power. Neighboring states like Mississippi are pitching in to help with recovery efforts.
We are coordinating with our partners in Louisiana, with the American Red Cross, as to what our plan should be to house in shelters any Louisiana residents that need it.
Ida moved on to the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast after decimating the Gulf Coast. In Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam issued a state of emergency after the system produced heavy rainfall and triggered mudslides. Several states pleaded with their citizens to prepare.
Yesterday, I signed a disaster emergency proclamation to help free up resources
to help the Commonwealth prepare for the storm.
Be aware that you can suddenly end up in a situation where a lot of water has pooled up, and that can be surprisingly dangerous.
Back here in Louisiana, people are focused on cleanup, throwing out belongings destroyed during the devastating Category 4 hurricane.
Oh, I never heard nothing like that. That was more powerful than the rain. I mean, powerful, you hear in the train.
Ida is predicted to bring several inches of rain and even flash flooding to several places affected by Storm Henri. In New Orleans, I'm Caroline Shively, Fox News.
Next, using the right money for the right needs.
The COVID stimulus bill is a windfall for school safety funding, but some districts say they have more urgent problems to tackle. I'm Steve Rappaport in New York. I've got the details coming up.
Schools across the country are gearing up to spend billions in federal funding appropriated in the last stimulus bill, but it's unclear exactly what expenses that money will be going toward. Fox's Steve Rappaport takes a closer look in this edition of our Biden Impact series.
You'll see our ceiling tiles frequently fall.
This school in Detroit is like so many others. Crumbling ceilings, mold infestations, and other big infrastructure issues that are impacting the quality of education. But that could change thanks to the $1 trillion COVID stimulus bill passed by Congress. At least $166 billion has been appropriated to help schools bring kids back safely as the COVID pandemic grinds on, and the White House is urging officials to use that money to make big changes, encouraging innovations that will set schools up for success after the outbreak is contained.
There's an underinvestment in education that this president is addressing.
But many districts say the money earmarked for safety is urgently needed for other projects, including rebuilding schools that are literally falling apart.
The exterior structure as well as the interior structure have significantly deteriorated.
And most schools will have the flexibility to set their own spending priorities. Only 20% of the stimulus money has to be used to address, quote, learning setbacks caused by the pandemic. Though some educators argue public schools had their share of setbacks long before COVID came along.
Put it into pay increases for the staff so that we can hire and attract and retain teachers.
But experts say before the spending spree begins, school districts need to do their homework.
Before you put $1 in any building, you need to sit down and have a real conversation about your successes and your failures.
Congressional Republicans are now pushing for new legislation that would make schools disclose how they're spending the stimulus money. In New York, Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
So apparently during this hot summer, people have been really going after those iced coffee drinks. Gonna hear more when we come back. When it comes to America's favorite coffee order, Starbucks says most people are keeping it cool. According to Starbucks CEO, 74% of all drinks ordered last quarter were cold drinks. This includes iced coffees, cold brews, teas, frappuccinos, among others. This number marks a 10% increase from last year. This cold trend was even seen reflected on sales of the fall classic pumpkin spice. Iced pumpkin spice lattes reportedly outsold hot ones last year. All right, say cheese. This is awkward. We were supposed to show video there. Hey, if you want to smile at home, go ahead. I was telling you to smile. We all could smile, right? Say cheese. Van Leeuwen's strange but successful Kraft macaroni and cheese inspired ice cream is back again. The Brooklyn-based ice cream retailer is welcoming back its limited edition macaroni and cheese flavored ice cream. Van Leeuwen introduced the unlikely mashup in July and it sold out. Now the creamy and cheesy goodness is back with even more pints up for grabs. The containers ship nationwide for $12, just in case if you're curious and you don't think $12 is expensive for a pint. Customers can order their own while supplies last on Van Leeuwen's website. There you go. I hope you're still smiling. Say cheese. 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
We're a week into the new school year and local districts are already seeing COVID cases. I'm Zach Dodge with details and where local experts think transmission may be happening.
Also, MSSU students discuss how a giant lizard from Japan became a cultural icon. Local school districts reporting students testing positive for COVID-19 after the first week of school. Districts in Jasper and Newton counties have seen positive cases among students and staff. They've had to quarantine several students as well. KOAM Zach Dodge has details on why a local health department is not surprised to see these numbers.
22 students in Neosho are currently not in school, under isolation after testing positive.
The cases that we have seem to be somewhat isolated and controlled.
9 of them on the first day.
That first day we were somewhat alarmed and what we found out. And those are students that called in and said, you know, we're positive.
Other than that, the highest increase from day to day has been 5 from August 31st to September 1st.
I haven't really pinpointed as to where most of these kids might have gotten it, but certainly the ones when we asked them, there's no clear, a school staff member or a schoolmate had it, and then we were in contact with them.
Larry Bergner at the Newton County Health Department isn't surprised by the cases.
We expect to see positives.
And it isn't just in Neosho. As of Friday, Joplin had 17 positives among students and 135 students with quarantine designations. And Carthage had 10 positives with 47 students being quarantined. At least in Newton County anyway, Bergner expects the year to look about like it did last year.
September, October, we saw increasing numbers, and as we got into late October, November, we saw a rapid decline.
If we can manage like we are right now to keep the case level low, I think we'll be okay. I think if we see a spike in cases, we'll be looking at other solutions.
Those other solutions in Neosho would be requiring masks if 7% of students in a school test positive, or closing schools if positive student cases reach 10%. In Neosho, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
We spoke with Cummins at 1:30 in the afternoon today, and by the time the day was over, cases among students had gone from 17 to 22. Quarantines went up from 48 to 62. Carl Junction has 3 positive cases among students. Webb City has 14 positives as of Friday. Administrators at both districts declined the opportunity to comment at this time. Area high school counselors were honored at Missouri Southern today. College hosted Counselor Appreciation Day. It was a chance for counselors to learn about new scholarships, housing, and academic opportunities.
Health sciences, arts.
New programs that we offer, new housing options, new scholarships. They're also going to be hearing from some of our academic programs who are going to tell them everything that is involved with that academic program, mostly our new ones, mostly our very immersive, very hands-on learning ones.
Counselors also had a chance to win one of 5 $1,000 scholarships to distribute however they saw fit. Missouri Southern's Japan Semester Film Festival continued today with presentation and discussion about Godzilla. MSSU professor Dr. Jim Lyle organized this whole thing. The focus is on how an angry atomic lizard became a significant cultural icon.
Dr. Lyle is a huge monster fan. Monster movies, and he's one of our more entertaining faculty members, and we thought what a great way to kick off the Japan semester with a riveting presentation by Dr. Lyle.
MSSU's Japan Film Festival is open to the public, by the way. Researchers in Spain are using artificial intelligence to help stroke patients calculate the risk of suffering another stroke. Experts believe their new study is going to identify the most important factors for preventing stroke recurrence and help pinpoint lifestyle changes or even treatments that could help in the long run. Fire crews in Northern California are desperately trying to save more than 30,000 homes and businesses in the Lake Tahoe area as a massive wildfire moves quickly. Fox News correspondent William Lajeunesse has more from South Lake Tahoe, California.
Fire crews are working hard to clear the landscape and get containment on a fast-moving wildfire threatening Lake Tahoe. It is called the Caldor Fire. It started August 14th and has already burned through more than 312 square miles, destroying at least 400 homes in the northern Sierra Nevada region. A big problem at this point, the weather, which is helping the fire jump containment lines and is expected to continue for at least one more day.
We're in red flag conditions, and those red flag conditions are for low relative humidity and strong gusty winds.
Officials say the fire is about 20% contained, but it's difficult to predict where it will spread next. In addition to the hot, dry conditions, the wind is creating what firefighters call an active crown fire run, where the fire literally spreads from treetop to treetop, with embers falling up to a mile away.
As fuel is burning, these hot embers are casting off of trees and timber, and then they're landing and easily igniting vegetation ahead.
At least 34,000 homes and businesses are now under threat as the fire moves closer to South Lake Tahoe. More than 22,000 have been evacuated on Tuesday, leaving just a handful remaining in this normally busy tourist town.
Depending on what the wind does, I might become a little more mildly concerned today, but
I'm hoping at some point I can just nab that cat and be out of here like a shot.
As the fire grows in size, the governors of California and Nevada are warning more evacuations may be needed. In South Lake Tahoe, William Lajeunesse, Fox News.
A bit later, going to visit a U.S. air base in Germany where soldiers there have the seemingly endless task of processing Afghan refugees.
So another warm day for us today, but not a hot day, which is nice to say. Indigo Sky Casino and Resort just outside Seneca, Missouri is showing us a beautiful time lapse. Look at that clear sky, some clouds, and a little bit of yesterday's activity mixed in there as well. Over the last 36 hours, temperatures have looked considerably better than what they have here lately. We started out 69 on Tuesday, went up to 88 Tuesday afternoon, started out at 70 today, made it up to 88 degrees today. Much better than, say, 96, 97, like what we have been seeing. 7th range line looking nice and clear. Temperatures looking a lot better too, because gosh, what, a week ago we were sitting at maybe 84, 85 at this time. 77 is where we're at. Feels like 79 instead of feeling like, 96, 97. So it's a lot better. And you can see a lot better temperatures across the board in the area. Now the dew point is still in place, and you can see a lot of us are sitting right about 70, which puts us right about that muggy range still. So it's still a little muggy. It's still going to feel a little bit warmer than what it actually is. But now that the sun's gone down, heat index values have gone down as well because the sun's not contributing to this unpleasant series of weather that we've had over the last several days. We do have changes on the way, and they're actually going to start tomorrow. We may see some afternoon storms. So starting the day, partly cloudy and 70, a little bit breezy, and then by noon, we may see a few scattered storms across the area before they clear out by the afternoon, and then more will build in. Nothing on the Skywatch Storm Tracker locally, though. Off in the northeast, they've been dealing with the remnants of Ida, where they've had flooding and severe weather and tornadoes. Thankfully, we haven't had to deal with that here, and it doesn't look like we're going to have to deal with that. There's those afternoon storms. This is about, I say afternoon, this is late morning, 9:30. We'll see them pick up, and then by about noon, 1 o'clock, they're going to kind of break up and be done with us. And then we'll see more storms potentially heading into Friday. You can see this line off to our northwest that's associated with our next weather maker, this nice cold front that's coming in. And then they call it a cold front. It's really not going to be cold after it moves through, but it is going to bring some rain and some cooler temperatures. So we go into the weekend, and that's going to increase again. So Friday, we might see a few afternoon storms as well. And then we head into Saturday. We start Saturday morning off. This activity staying to our north, but as you can see, we've got more thunderstorms building into our area, starting the day on Saturday. Heat index values into the future. I just wanted to show you this because it's going to feel so nice. This is tomorrow. It's a lot better than what it has been. We go into Saturday, considerably better. It's still warm. It's still muggy, but not where it has been. And this is the deal. Holiday weekend temperatures, 86, 80 on Sunday. Unfortunately, you do see there increasing rain and storm chances. That's the trade-off we've got. But by Labor Day itself, warming back up with some morning storms before that clears out, and then we start to heat up again as the next week rolls on. So a rainy holiday weekend, but at least we're getting a break from this heat.
Absolutely. Chris Warner, thank you as always. All right, coming up in sports, Pitt State, Missouri Southern football just 24 hours away from kicking off the season. Going to talk about the team's quarterbacks. Plus, the Miami War Dogs aim to do something they haven't done on the football field since 2005. Jacob Leonard has details next.
The Miami War Dogs snapped a 19-game losing streak last Friday, winning their season opener over Dewey. Now, the young War Dogs are preparing for their home opener this Friday, aiming to do something the program has not done in 16 years. The Miami War Dogs are coming off their first win since 2019.
It feels great. I mean, it just proves to the kids that hard work pays off. It was so loud, I'll tell you that right now, but it was just crazy. Everybody's just hyped, jumping on each other, hugging, a little crying here and there. It's just not used to it. It's definitely a different feeling. Feels amazing. Just starting out like this, want to know.
This Friday, they'll play their home opener against Jay.
A very physical football team and kind of the old style pursuit of the wishbone. So it's going to be a very physical game and see how our kids respond to the physicality, because we come off of a finesse team in Dewey who throws it 30 plus times a game to ground pound team that we're going to have to respond to.
With a win, the War Dogs will be off to a 2-0 start for the first time since 2005.
Well, it'll just be a huge confidence builder. I mean, it's what these kids need. It's not going to be athleticism right now that we're lacking in. It's just maturity and just some self-confidence, knowing that they're still capable of doing it. They won at the grade school and middle school levels, and that's a total different ball game. But now you have 14, 15-year-olds, facing 18, 19-year-olds, and that's a big maturity division right there. But if our kids can find a way to fight and win right now, the future's really bright here at Miami.
This Miami roster is a young one, featuring just 6 juniors and 6 seniors. It's their sophomore class with 20 players that brings the numbers and plenty of talent, hoping to make winning a weekly expectation now and in the future.
This group right here is pretty special that they're sophomores now, and all they've known is us as far as a staff. So we established stability with those kids. The relationships are great, and they've really bought in.
They're definitely bigger, stronger coming up throughout the program, and we definitely rely on them with the numbers that they have. They're pretty much the heart of our team.
We have a challenging upcoming schedule, but 1 week at a time, we feel like this is a team that we match up well with, and we need to go get another one.
Now, the War Dogs are in their 4th season under Coach Gardner. Kickoff for Friday's game against Jay is at 7 o'clock Friday evening. The Pittsburgh State Gorillas and Missouri Southern Lions will both open up the MIAA season tomorrow night. The Gorillas will be on the road, taking on 13th ranked Central Missouri. We're going to talk quarterbacks for Pitt and Southern this evening. For the Gorillas, sophomore Max Sexton is back under center this fall. Last fall, in the team's 4 non-conference games, Sexton threw for just over 1,000 yards with 8 touchdowns and 3 picks. Now, if you've ever talked to him or seen him play, you know he likes to sling it around. So he's a big fan of the new offense under head coach Brian Wright.
I like throwing it around. I mean, it fits my style, and I think he enjoys it too, moving the ball down the field in chunks. I like throwing it all around the field.
He's picked up our offense well. He understands what we're trying to do as we move the ball down the field, not only in the passing game, but in the run game, and counting how many defenders are in the box and so forth. So he's done a good job of that.
As for Missouri Southern, they'll be on the road against Nebraska Kearney tomorrow night. Now, they have a new head coach in Atiba Bradley, and they'll be rolling with a new quarterback in Dawson Hurl, a redshirt freshman out of William Chrisman High School in Missouri.
He's very poised. He very rarely gets rattled. He's a guy that has a very short-term memory. A bad throw doesn't affect his next throw. He's a guy that has a lot of confidence for his age to be able to step into a huddle and demand the respect and the attention of the team. And so when your signal caller has those attributes, it's a very good thing.
And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
While U.S. troops are out of Afghanistan, the evacuation is far from over. Officials at Ramstein Air Base in Germany believe they're going to be processing people for many days to come. Fox News senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Pelcott has more.
The flights out of Kabul might be over, but the evacuation of Afghan refugees through nearby Ramstein Air Base continues. And so does the controversy here in Europe about what to do about more Afghan refugees. Brussels and Germany say all countries should take in asylum seekers in the future, like women and activists. But several countries, like Poland and Hungary, say no, they'll just send aid. They're worried about another migrant crisis. The U.S. is definitely committed. Take a look at what we saw today at the airbase. You are looking at what has been the workhorse of this Afghanistan evacuation. Massive C-17 cargo plane. On average, it's been bringing out something like 450 people. One flight in the early days brought out over 800. You really have to get close to one of these massive C-17 cargo planes to realize how desperate the Afghans were to flee the Taliban. On one of the early flights from Kabul, they were literally hanging from the fuselage of the plane. Not all made it. In fact, today, 1,800 Afghans have flown into Ramstein from other bases. 1,900 were flown out to the States. There's a backlog now here of some 15,000. Listen to the guy who's managing all the planes.
It's been pretty much nonstop. We've been running 24 hours every day of the week so far, just getting as many people in and out of here as we possibly can.
Have you ever handled this size of operation with so many moving parts?
I've never seen anything like this in my entire life.
We were told, in fact, by an officer at the base he expects this operation to continue for many more days. In a troubled time. In Landstuhl, Germany, Greg Baumgart, Fox News.
A new spin-off series to the Croods movies. Yeah, Hollywood Nation coming your way. Alicia Keys is releasing a new book, and Daniel Craig reflects on his time as James Bond. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin with the latest from the Hollywood Nation.
How many points for hitting a berry? 10 points. And if you hit grand, it's 100. The Croods return. Craig looks back and Keys tells a story in the Hollywood Nation. Alicia Keys is turning her hit single Girl on Fire into a book. The song is the title and inspiration for a young adult novel she is co-writing and will release on March 1st, 2022. It tells the story of a 14-year-old girl named Lolo Wright who discovers she has telekinetic powers. This is the Grammy-winning singer's second book. She released her memoir, More Myself, A Journey, in 2020. The Croods are heading to the small screen this fall. DreamWorks Animation released a trailer to the new spin-off series, The Croods Family Tree, and announced it will premiere on Hulu and Peacock September 23rd. The show will continue the story of the Croods and the Bettermans learning to live together on the most idyllic farm in prehistory.
James Bond.
And Apple TV Plus is giving James Bond fans something to feast their eyes on a month ahead of the release for No Time to Die. On September 7th, the streamer is dropping a new documentary, Being James Bond, featuring Daniel Craig reflecting on his 15 years as 007. It will include never-before-seen archival footage from each of his Bond films, as well as the actor sharing his memories of playing the popular secret agent. Craig will make his fifth and final appearance as James Bond in No Time to Die, arriving in theaters October 8th. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
That's our time for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Going to leave you with video of twin baby elephants in Sri Lanka. Be safe. Look at those guys. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.